thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to be here today. The rumours about me avoiding knocking doors are completely wrong. I do, of course, welcome that, but it's good to be here with you this afternoon to share with you some thoughts around where we are, not just in Northern Ireland, but nationally as well. And we're certainly living through interesting political times. Just 12 months ago, few people predicted that the United Kingdom would vote to leave the European Union. The people of the United States would elect Donald Trump as president, and Theresa May as Prime Minister would be heading for a historic general election victory. And though, given the electoral upsets of the last 12 months, we should take nothing for granted, I think that third will become a reality as well. In Northern Ireland, things have also changed, and after almost 10 years of devolution, we have had no fully functioning executive since January, and a real prospect of direct rule being reintroduced before Parliament breaks for the summer. So today I want to talk about two unions: the European Union, which we have voted to leave, and the union between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which I hope and trust will continue to endure. Now, from politics in Northern Ireland, I know only too well the temptation to refight old battles and to dwell on what has been, but that is to make a fundamental mistake. If politics is about anything, then it is about our future. It's why we must make and remake the case for the United Kingdom, and it's why we must get on with implementing the will of the British people last June. I voted for the United Kingdom to leave the European Union, not out of some sentimental form of British nationalism or because I do not value the contribution of the people from all parts of the European Union and what they have done for life here in the UK, but because I believe in the right of the United Kingdom to determine its own future, or to paraphrase the Leave campaign, to take back control. All of the signs are, of course, that Theresa May will win a resounding majority in the House of Commons when the votes are counted after the 8th of June. And that means she will have a clear mandate to negotiate the arrangements for the UK's departure from the European Union by March of 2019. For Northern Ireland, that is far from the end of the story. While the fact that the UK is leaving the EU is clear, the precise terms of our departure remain to be negotiated and agreed. And while the general election is likely to give the Prime Minister a stronger hand to push for the kind of Brexit that she wishes to see delivered, in Northern Ireland it has run the risk of polarising an opinion that was coalescing around an agreed way forward. At home, we may not have agreed on the leave or remain issue, but we were very close to agreeing on the kind of EU exit that we wanted to see. And on this basis, I believe that there is room and a reason for optimism. And I hope that once the election dust settles yet again, we can once again pick up where we left off. At EU level, I suspect there is more sympathy towards Northern Ireland than to any other part of the UK. Both our government and the European Union, in their opening correspondence, have reflected the importance of getting a good deal for Northern Ireland. Now, during the referendum campaign and since, some of those who advocated Remain have argued that the UK's departure from the EU will result in a hard border on the island of Ireland. I know of no one who wishes that to be the case. My experience of living beside another EU member state is probably different than any other UK citizen. I was born and raised in a border constituency. I still live there, and it's where I'm raising my family. That means that more than most, I'm acutely aware of the importance of the ability of people and goods to move freely across the land frontier with the Republic of Ireland. The fact that geographically Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK which will have a land border with the EU does make us different, as does our history and our politics. Who could deny that the situation of Northern Ireland within the UK, and indeed Ireland within the EU, will face different challenges from other areas affected by the UK's EU exit and will require unique and tailored solutions. However, I do not believe that a circular argument about some ill-defined and ill-conceived so-called special status for Northern Ireland is helpful. Indeed, it's probably likely to be counterproductive. In my speech to my own party conference as far back as last October, I pointed out that any deal must recognise the reality of our geography and of course of our history. And as someone who argued for the UK to leave the European Union, I am prepared to be flexible about the precise terms and indeed timings. Because I'm more interested in getting the best deal for Northern Ireland and the United Kingdom as a whole than I am in some doctrine or dogma. By far, the best way to achieve this, of course, is to get the Stormont Assembly and Executive up and running as quickly as possible. The talks process that we've been involved in since early March have been protracted and frustrating, but in some areas progress has been made, such as a common Northern Ireland position on Brexit, building on the letter that I agreed with the then Deputy First Minister last August. All the parties have been making a positive contribution to an emerging consensus which can offer the best of all worlds for Northern Ireland. So now is the time to work together and to grasp the opportunities which exist. For those of us who argued for Brexit, that will mean looking for flexible and imaginative solutions for the challenges that face us, just as it will mean for those who argue for Remain and acceptance of the decision. Now, it is a simple and indisputable fact that by far the most important union for the people of Northern Ireland economically is the union with Great Britain. But that need not come at the cost of accepting the economic and cultural ties that cross the border. For once, there doesn't need to be a winner and a loser. The Republic of Ireland needs a good outcome to these negotiations, every bit as much as we do. And I believe there is a shared objective between the UK and the Republic to get the right deal. And that right deal will not just be between Northern Ireland and the Republic, it will be between Ireland and the United Kingdom as a whole in terms of transport and trade and people and goods. I don't pretend there are easy answers, but collectively, if we're all pushing in the one direction, I am confident that they can be resolved. It may take a bit more time and some financial support to get things right, but it can be achieved. And whether or not devolution is restored before the summer, I am committed to working with the incoming government to get the best deal for Northern Ireland. I'm also conscious that in doing so, I want us to be able to win as much support as possible for whatever deal is done. And that doesn't just mean winning a majority in Parliament at the end of the process, but ensuring that whatever deal is done does not tear at the fabric of the United Kingdom. Because for me, the importance of the EU, whether in it or how we leave it, ranks as a distant second to the importance of the United Kingdom. That would have been the case whether we voted to remain or to stay. Now, I am confident that the Prime Minister will have the interests of the whole of the UK in mind during the negotiations ahead. I know for some that the cause of the UK leaving the EU has been a central goal and an ambition, but I also want us to reflect this afternoon on the precious bonds that exist between and across the United Kingdom and why that union is so important to us all. As has been stated, I come from the most westerly parliamentary constituency in the United Kingdom. I grew up and have lived entirely most of my life in Fermanagh, apart from when I was at university. It is my home, it's where my heart lies, and it is where I raised my family, as I've said, and none of that has changed. And in some ways, life in rural Fermanagh could not be more different than here in London, but in so many other ways, our lives are intertwined by every aspect of our history and our culture. And I got involved in politics because I wanted to make a positive difference, because of my pride in Northern Ireland, and my passion for the United Kingdom as a whole. My nationality is not simply a choice like the support of a football team, but it is integral to the person that I am. My Britishness is not just about the passport that I hold, but the identity that I have. It can't be reduced to a name or a badge, but is a culture and a way of life. It's about decency and respect. It's about a shared history going back generations and hundreds of years. It's about shared cultural experience, which encompass the newspapers that we read, the television we watch, and the football teams, as I said, we support. It's about a pride in our role for good in the world, not just throughout the 2 world wars and the fight against communism in the past, but the battle for freedom and democracy today. And it was that devotion to country that led so many of our people down the years to serve in the armed forces and to make the ultimate sacrifice for a greater good. Now, by today's standards, the UK is not a large country in population terms, but our influence extends to every part of the globe. We retain a leading role on the world stage, not just because of our past record, but because we can be relied upon as a force for good when times are tough. Fundamental to all of that, as a nation, is our belief in freedom and democracy, and for those things, they can't be codified in a written constitution, but are really at the beating heart of where we are as a society. And the United Kingdom today has a very different cultural makeup in 2017 than it did in 1917, but we have retained the values that made our country great. And whatever the debate about immigration from the EU, there's no doubt that our country has been enhanced by the people who have for decades come to our shores. The fact that to this day the UK remains a beacon attracting people from all over the globe to work, to settle, to make their lives, tells us more about our country than any statistic really can. Our democratic system has stood the test of time over centuries, and in my view, Westminster remains a model and an inspiration for democracy everywhere. And just in parenthesis, who can doubt the role that our monarch has played in all of this? I confess that I am an ardent royalist, but even those who aren't can't dispute the role Her Majesty has played in holding our nation together. But my belief and support for the United Kingdom doesn't just rely on economic arguments, even though there can be no doubt that overwhelmingly the case is that we are better together than apart. The UK has allowed the sharing of wealth and prosperity, not just between people, but across our entire nation. And it is because of these things, and countless more, that I want to see our nation succeed and prosper. Of course we can evolve and change, but we must retain those things that have made us what we are. Now, political leaders from Northern Ireland, understandably, often remain neutral, at least publicly, about the outcome of a Westminster general election. After all, we have to work with whomever the British people elect as our next government. And over recent decades, we have had both good and bad experiences of Labour and Conservative administrations. But this election is different. And while Theresa May is well within the political mainstream and has proven herself to be a solid and reliable unionist, Jeremy Corbyn is beyond the political pale. It is hard to take seriously the proclaimed respect for democracy and constitutional rights of a man who was so close to the political representatives of the IRA at the height of the Troubles. And it is hard to see much good coming for the Labour Party from the coming election, except the replacement of their party leader. In just 4 years' time, we will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of Northern Ireland. And given the history and events of this last 100 years, that is an achievement which everybody should be proud of. It has been possible not just because of the resolve of the people of Northern Ireland in the face of threats and attacks from terrorism, but also because of the support we have received from the rest of the United Kingdom. The Union will only survive if it is a two-way process, and I'm delighted that it has always been so. Whilst from time to time British governments have strayed from the path that we would ideally like to see them pursue, we have always been able to count on the support of the British people. That's why, as the leader of unionism in Northern Ireland, I want us to play as full a part as possible in the life of the United Kingdom as a whole. I want us to be able to contribute as much now and in the future in terms of cultural and economic life of the country, just as we did 100 years ago on the battlefields across Europe. And while so many of us take it for granted as a fact of life and integral to our existence, it does bear considering what is so valuable about our membership of the United Kingdom. In Northern Ireland, Sinn Féin have been pushing for a border poll to be held to test opinion on the issue of the Union. Now, I have no doubt that our position in the UK would be resoundingly endorsed, and all recent polling makes that abundantly clear. However, as we've learned from the experience in Scotland, such campaigns by their very nature are divisive and disruptive and destabilising. In Northern Ireland, I want our executive back up and running and dealing with the problems that face people in their everyday lives. The case for the Union is strong, it is sound, and even those who would deny our cultural links have to accept that quite simply the case for the Union makes financial sense. And by making the case for the Union, I believe the facts would ultimately deliver a verdict which would render any future demand for a border poll devoid of credibility. I see this case for the Union being aimed at those in Great Britain as well as our fellow citizens in Northern Ireland, and it is an opportunity to make the case for the Union in terms of our history, our culture, our economy, and indeed every other facet of life. We should remind ourselves of the value of the Union and persuade others of its worth, and I want us to put on record the contribution that Northern Ireland has made and will continue to make in the life of our nation. This work shouldn't be the property of any political party, but should encompass contributions from right across life, both in Northern Ireland and the UK as a whole. And I've no doubt that the case for the Union can and will be able to command widespread support. But we should also ask the question of what we can do to make it even more appealing to everyone in our society. That will require us to challenge ourselves as well as others. It may mean posing questions about what it is that we value about our membership of the United Kingdom, and to be careful not to deter support as a result of things that are not fundamental to that vision. So we are at the start of what I expect will be a long process. Our goal must be, by the time of the centenary of Northern Ireland comes around in 2021, to have a persuasive case that those of us who believe in the UK can confidently make anywhere and to any audience. Because if we take a wrong turn, we could see everything that we hold dear under threat in the years to come. But if we ask the right questions and take the right steps now, we can ensure that we pass on to the next generation the same rich inheritance that was passed to me and to everyone in Northern Ireland and the UK. So soon the election will be over. It will be time to get back to work, and for the Prime Minister, that will mean getting the best deal for the UK and Europe. For us in Northern Ireland, it will mean getting devolution up and running again on a sustainable basis that works for everyone. And whilst those are different goals and ambitions, the one guiding star for all of us must be that we ensure the maintenance and survival of the one union that is so precious to us all, and that is the United Kingdom. Thank you very much for listening.